Lyra sat in the observatory, the hum of the ancient star charts almost hypnotic. So the universe decides to keep expanding, and here I am, stuck expanding my patience, she muttered. Her long ears twitched, catching the soft buzz of the palace's archaic systems, the same systems that had been a royal headache since the last upgrade 20 solar cycles ago. The stars outside weren't just distant balls of fire, they were reminders. Each flicker was a memory she tried to shove away but failed spectacularly. The one memory that refused to fade was Marcus. Human, saved her life, and complicated everything. Her advisor, Marn, barged in with the subtlety of a comet on a collision course. Your Majesty, the Convergence Festival preparations are behind schedule. Also, I might have accidentally delegated the floral arrangements to the kitchen staff again. Lyra sighed. Did they at least remember the anti-gravity blossoms? Or did we end up with the usual wilted spaceweed? Marn grinned sheepishly. Spaceweed? It's, organic? Lyra's lips twitched. Even royalty needed levity when drowning in protocol. She glanced again at the stars, thinking about Marcus. How absurd it was that this human, fumbling through starship controls like a kid with a new toy, had become her secret heart's rebellion. Back then, she'd been cornered by the rebel faction during the siege of Virax 9, her escape hinging on a chance encounter with a human pilot who, despite being a bit too enthusiastic about cosmic donuts, managed to rescue her. The image of his disheveled hair and that goofy grin was etched permanently behind her eyelids. He had no idea what he was doing, she whispered, but neither did I, which makes us perfectly matched, doesn't it? A rare chuckle escaped her lips. Across the galaxy, Marcus was currently arguing with his ship's AI. No T3, I don't want to recalibrate the flux capacitor while I'm mid-coffee. One disaster at a time, please. The AI responded in its usual deadpan tone. Marcus, you have previously survived 3 flux capacitor miscalculations. Statistically, you should be used to it by now. Marcus gave an exasperated groan. Great, so you're telling me I'm statistically doomed, but haven't actually died yet? Thanks for the pep talk. He glanced out his viewport, where the swirling colors of a nebula looked less intimidating than the chaos brewing in his mind. The memory of the Queen, her long ears twitching in frustration and amusement, was an unexpected echo in his otherwise chaotic existence. Lyra's day continued with meetings that felt like orbiting black holes, inevitable, draining, and likely to crush any spontaneous emotion. If I have to listen to another lecture about the sacred duty of the throne or the imperative of political alliances, I might just appoint a hologram to replace me, she joked during a particularly dreary council session. Her laughter was met with a mix of shock and thinly veiled relief. Even queens need a break from the royal monotony. One of her counselors, a rather stern creature named Velis, raised an eyebrow. Your Majesty, humor is a dangerous weapon. Use it wisely. Lyra smirked. Oh, Velis, if sarcasm was a weapon, I'd have conquered at least 3 planets by now. Between the stifling formality and the weight of the crown, Lyra found solace in small rebellions, a secret stash of Earth novels, which she pretended not to love, late-night talks with the ship's AI, and the rare moments when she could think freely about Marcus. It wasn't just gratitude she felt for him. It was something deeper, tangled in the delicate threads of what might have been. But duty was a stern jailer. She couldn't abandon the throne, no matter how much her heart longed to chase a starship pilot through the vast unknown. I want you, human, she whispered to the empty room, but we're too late. Marcus tapped his communicator nervously. If only I could send a message faster than the speed of bureaucracy. The reply was instant. That's a known issue. Try waving a flag or sending smoke signals. He laughed despite himself. The distance between them was measured not just in light years, but in the tangled web of politics and promises neither wanted but both had to honor. Somewhere in the silence between their worlds, a connection lingered, fragile but unbroken. The Convergence Festival loomed, a cosmic dance of diplomacy, tradition, and the kind of small disasters that only happen when multiple species try to coordinate a party. Lyra rehearsed her speeches with Marn, who insisted on adding quantum metaphors for flair. Your Majesty, how about, like entangled particles, our fates are linked beyond space and time? Lyra rolled her eyes. Only if you promise not to entangle me with a confused ambassador from Andromeda again. Marn chuckled. Deal, but no promises on the diplomats. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Lyra felt the familiar pull of the stars and the aching reminder of what she had lost and what she might never have. Her reflection caught in the observatory's glass was regal and resolute, but her eyes betrayed a restless hope. Somewhere out there, Marcus was looking at the same stars, maybe thinking of her, maybe laughing at the absurdity of an alien queen with long ears and a heart too human for her own good. The galaxy was vast. The rules were many, but sometimes the smallest defiance was a love letter written in starlight. Marcus stood in the cramped cockpit of his freighter, blinking at the blinking lights as if they were hieroglyphics written by an alien prankster. The T3AEI's monotone voice cut through the silence. Marcus, you seem to be holding the manual upside down again. He gave an exasperated sigh. Maybe the manual just has a poor sense of direction. The ship lurched as if it agreed, sending his coffee cup skidding across the control panel in a liquid rebellion. Great. Now I'm spilling Java in 0G. Perfect. He reached for a rag, accidentally activating the emergency beacon. T3, remind me why you're programmed to make my life harder? Because my programming includes a cruel sense of humor, it replied cheerfully. Marcus groaned, but couldn't help but smile. Life on the fringe of civilized space wasn't supposed to be this complicated, yet here he was, tangled in the galactic web of interspecies politics and cosmic duty he barely understood. The distant memory of the queen, Lyra, flickered like a star stubbornly refusing to die out. The human and the alien had been thrown together by fate, and their brief encounters had left something unspoken between them, something that neither time nor distance had erased. Meanwhile, on the gleaming throne world of Velcora, Lyra paced the royal chambers, her long ears flicking in irritation as she tried to focus on the upcoming Convergence Festival. If only I could outsource my feelings like I outsource paperwork, she muttered, glancing at the pile of diplomatic scrolls on her desk. Her chief advisor, Marn, appeared with the grace of someone who had perfected the art of royal interruptions. Your Majesty, the floral arrangements are questionable. The kitchen staff assures me that space weed is the latest trend in Andromedan botany. Lyra raised an eyebrow. If by trend you mean a plant that looks like it's giving up on life, then yes, very trendy. The day was a whirlwind of ceremonial rehearsals, diplomatic briefings, and endless cups of the bitter palace tea, which Marcus could have sworn was a weapon disguised as a beverage. Lyra found herself longing for a simpler existence, the kind where a starship pilot with questionable coffee skills could rescue her without the entire royal court breathing down her neck. Yet every moment was a reminder of the gulf between them, her crown forged from centuries of sacrifice, his life a chaotic dance on the edge of space. Back on his ship, Marcus tuned the radio to the galactic news frequency, half listening to reports of political intrigue and interstellar disputes. The announcer's voice was oddly cheerful given the content. In other news, the Velcoran court prepares for its annual Convergence Festival, where tradition meets intergalactic chaos. Stay tuned for live coverage, including the inevitable accidental speeches and diplomatic faux pas. Marcus chuckled, imagining Lyra trying to keep a straight face amidst the spectacle. As night fell over Velcora, Lyra found herself alone in the observatory again, the stars winking at her like old friends and on the universe's greatest joke. She whispered into the void, "If only you were here, Marcus." Or at least had better taste in music. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. It was a secure message from the outer colonies. She opened it with cautious hope, only to find a sarcastic hologram of Marn winking and saying, "Remember, Your Majesty, diplomacy is 90% patience and 10% pretending to care about intergalactic flower festivals." Across the cosmos, Marcus sat in his cockpit, staring at a faded hollow photo of Lyra, her regal posture and those unmistakable long ears, making her look like a queen out of a fairy tale. "Too late, huh?" he murmured, the weight of unspoken words pressing down on him. Yet somewhere beneath the frustration and cosmic absurdity, a stubborn spark of hope flickered, a hope that maybe, just maybe, The universe wasn't done with their story yet. The Convergence Festival was shaping up to be less of a diplomatic gathering and more of an intergalactic circus. Lyra adjusted her ceremonial robes for what felt like the 100th time and muttered, "If only I could beam myself out of here, instead of having to endure Velcora's finest attempts at political theater." Her long ears twitched at the sound of approaching footsteps. Marn was back, this time carrying what looked suspiciously like a malfunctioning robotic flower arranger. "Your Majesty, the automaton seems to have developed an unexpected fondness for interpretive dance," Marn reported, arms raised defensively as the device spun erratically. Lyra smirked despite herself. "At least it's more entertaining than the diplomats." The palace buzzed with the chatter of beings from all corners of the galaxy, each species adding their own flavor of chaos to the mix. Velcoran nobles whispered in rapid clicks. Andromedan traders haggled loudly over the price of synthetic spice, and somewhere, an alien bard attempted to tune a plasma harp with questionable success. The air was thick with anticipation, awkward introductions, and a collective hope that no one would accidentally ignite a diplomatic incident. Meanwhile, Marcus was navigating a very different kind of chaos. His freighter, laden with goods ranging from exotic minerals to dubious snacks, was docked precariously in a bustling spaceport on the edge of the Velcoran system. As he struggled to keep his cargo from toppling over, his comm crackled to life. "Marcus, your punctuality is as legendary as your ability to spill coffee," T3 teased. "If you don't get moving soon, you'll miss the festival, and possibly your chance to see the Queen." Marcus groaned. "Great, so now I have to be both a diplomat and a miracle worker." He glanced at the hollow message from Lyra, her expression formal but her eyes betraying the smallest hint of a smile. "If only I could crash the festival in style." He imagined what that might look like, his freighter swooping in, fireworks blazing, and him delivering a speech that somehow combined galactic peace with a joke about interstellar traffic jams. The reality was more likely to involve a lot of awkward small talk and the inevitable mix-up of his name with another Marcus from the Andromeda sector. Back at the palace, Lyra found herself drawn into a heated debate about the placement of a particularly controversial statue, one that resembled a giant cosmic squid wearing a crown. "I fail to see how this promotes diplomacy," she said dryly, "unless the squid is meant to intimidate our guests into submission." Marn nodded thoughtfully. "It does have a certain 'don't mess with us' vibe." Lyra laughed, the sound rare and genuine in the stifling halls of power. As the evening unfolded, the festival's main event began. A dazzling display of holographic stars and nebulae, choreographed to a symphony of alien instruments. Lyra stood on the balcony, the weight of her crown feeling both heavier and lighter beneath the spectacle. Her thoughts drifted to Marcus, wondering if he was watching the same stars from a distant ship, sharing the same impossible longing. Suddenly, a commotion near the entrance caught her attention. Marcus, against all odds, had arrived. The sight of him navigating the throng of dignitaries with a mixture of determination and bewilderment brought a reluctant smile to her lips. He approached, eyes wide but steady, and quipped, "I hope this counts as crashing a royal party." Lyra's laughter was soft but full of warmth. "It's more than I dared hope for." Their conversation was a dance of stolen glances and carefully chosen words, balancing the official with the personal. Marcus teased, "So, Queen Lyra, do you always keep your advisors on such tight robotic leashes? Or am I just lucky?" She raised an eyebrow. "Only when they start choreographing dance routines without permission." The moment was fragile, suspended between the rules of their worlds and the desires of their hearts. As the festival reached its crescendo, Lyra and Marcus found themselves alone for a fleeting moment. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Lyra's voice was barely above a whisper. "I wanted to tell you, long ago, that you changed everything." Marcus smiled, a bittersweet curve of his lips. "And I wanted to tell you that sometimes the right words come too late. But maybe the right moment isn't about timing, it's about courage." They shared a look heavy with unspoken promises and impossible dreams. The festival lights flickered, and reality crept back in, their worlds waiting, demanding sacrifice. Yet in that brief space between stars and duties, a seed of hope was planted. The queen and the human stood together, not as ruler and subject, but as two souls bound by a love that defied the universe's cruel timing, ready to face whatever came next with humor, heart, and perhaps just a little bit of rebellion. The morning after the Convergence Festival dawned with a reluctant sun, casting pale light over Velcora's sprawling palace. Lyra awoke to the usual bustle of royal duties, knocking on her chamber door like a persistent space miner. Yet beneath the familiar cadence of protocol, a quiet rebellion stirred within her, a spark ignited by Marcus's unexpected arrival and their stolen moments under the starlit sky. Who knew diplomacy could be so unpredictable, she mused, her long ears flicking in amusement. Marn appeared promptly, a scroll in hand, and an expression somewhere between concern and disbelief. Your Majesty, the Council insists on an immediate meeting regarding the recent human intrusion. Apparently, they're worried you're planning to start an intergalactic comedy club. Lyra smiled wryly. Well, if that's the alternative to endless treaties, I might be tempted. The absurdity of the situation was a balm, a reminder that even in the grand halls of power, humor could be a secret weapon. Marcus, meanwhile, was adjusting to the palace's rigid rhythms, with all the grace of a rookie pilot learning to navigate a black hole. His attempts at small talk with Velcran officials were met with varying degrees of confusion and suspicion. So, you're the famous human who saved the queen? One noble asked, peering over a crystal glass. Marcus nodded, then quipped, I also make a mean cup of space coffee, which I'm told is a diplomatic advantage. The room's silence was broken only by a low chuckle from an elderly ambassador who seemed to appreciate the levity. Lyra found herself torn between the demands of the throne and the magnetic pull of Marcus's world, a world where laughter and chaos weren't liabilities but lifelines. She caught glimpses of him navigating the palace gardens with a mix of awe and bewilderment, occasionally muttering about the complexity of zero-gravity topiary arrangements. You'd think a civilization advanced enough for interstellar travel would have mastered hedge trimming, he joked during one of their rare moments alone. Their conversations became a delicate dance, weaving between duty and desire, truth and jest. Marcus admitted, I never thought I'd find myself caught in palace politics, let alone trying to decipher Velcoran etiquette. Lyra smiled, and I never imagined I'd be the queen who'd rather skip a coronation speech to debate the ethics of robotic flower arrangers with a human. Their laughter echoed through hidden corridors, a secret rebellion against the weight of expectation. But the universe, as always, reminded them of its unyielding rules. The council convened, their voices a symphony of concern and caution. Your Majesty, one elder stated, the alliance with the human factions is fragile. Your association with Mr. Marcus could be perceived as a political gambit, jeopardizing centuries of peace. Lyra's response was measured but firm. Peace built on fear is no peace at all. Perhaps it's time we redefined alliances, not just between species, but between hearts. Marcus, standing beside her, felt the heavy gaze of centuries of tradition pressing down on them. Yet his own resolve was unwavering. Sometimes, he said softly, the most dangerous act of diplomacy is honesty. The room was silent, save for the distant hum of the palace's quantum core, a reminder that even the most ancient institutions were powered by the relentless march of progress. That evening, as the twin moons rose, Lyra and Marcus retreated to the observatory. The stars above shimmered with ancient light, indifferent to the turmoil below. You know, Marcus began, if I had a credit for every time someone told me, you're too late, I'd own a fleet by now. Lyra chuckled. And if I had a credit for every time duty tried to silence my heart, I'd have bought the entire galaxy. They spoke of dreams deferred and futures uncertain, of sacrifices made in the name of duty, and the rare moments when courage dared to break through. Maybe we're not too late, Lyra whispered. Maybe we're just early for the part where everything changes. Marcus reached out, his hand brushing hers, a simple gesture that spoke volumes in a language older than stars. In the vastness of space, amid the politics and protocols, two souls found solace in shared defiance and the unspoken promise of something more. The galaxy was vast, their paths uncertain, But in that moment, laughter and love intertwined, a beacon against the endless night. The council chamber hummed with tension thick enough to interfere with even the most advanced sonic translators. Lyra stood tall, her long ears catching every murmur, every hesitation from the gathered elders and officials. The fate of Velcora, her people, and the fragile alliance with humanity hung precariously in the balance. She glanced at Marcus, who, despite the unfamiliar robes and the stiff decorum, wore the determined look of a man who'd stared down starship engines in a deadlock and still come out smiling. "Ready to shake up centuries of tradition?" she whispered. Marcus cracked a grin. "I was ready before I knew what tradition was. Also, I'm still not sure if I'm supposed to bow or just awkwardly nod." Lyra laughed softly, the sound a rare warmth in the austere chamber. "Consider that your first diplomatic challenge." She cleared her throat and addressed the council. "We stand at a crossroads. The universe is vast, and old rules that once kept peace can become cages that stifle progress. I choose to embrace change, not out of rebellion, but out of hope. Marcus represents more than a savior or a visitor. He symbolizes the bridge between two worlds." The room was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. "I propose a new alliance, not just political, but personal, a union that honors both our duties and our hearts." One elder cleared his throat, eyes sharp. "Your Majesty, such a proposal challenges the very fabric of our laws and customs." Lyra nodded. "Yes, it does. But what good is a law if it denies the freedom to love? If it binds us to loneliness under the guise of duty? I've learned that sacrifice is inevitable, but so is the courage to choose what we sacrifice for." She looked at Marcus. "And I choose us." Marcus stepped forward, voice steady. "I came here thinking my role was simple. Rescue the Queen, save the day, and return to my chaotic life. But this is bigger. It's about connection, about rewriting what's possible. I'm not just a visitor, I'm a part of the story now, and I'm ready to face whatever comes, with humor, heart, and maybe a few more coffee spills." Laughter rippled through the chamber, easing the tension like a solar flare melting ice. The elders exchanged glances, the ancient rigidity giving way to cautious curiosity. Slowly, one by one, they began to nod, the unspoken acknowledgement that the universe was changing, and they must change with it. Days later, the palace gardens blossomed with vibrant new life. Hybrids of Velcoran flora and earth seeds brought by Marcus, tended by robotic gardeners with programmed jokes about interstellar horticulture. Lyra and Marcus walked among them, sharing stories of misadventures, botched ceremonies, and the awkwardness of first meetings. "You know," Marcus said, "I never thought I'd end up planting alien flowers as a royal consort. Beats dodging space pirates, though." Lyra smiled, her long ears twitching. "And I never imagined I'd find laughter in rebellion." They paused beneath a tree whose leaves shimmered like liquid starlight, a symbol of their new beginning. In the quiet moments, away from the demands of crown and crew, they discovered something rare. Peace forged not from perfection, but from shared imperfection and defiant hope. Lyra's voice was gentle. "We were always late to this dance, but maybe that's the point. Sometimes the last step is the one that matters most." Marcus squeezed her hand. "Then let's make it count. Together." The stars outside whispered ancient secrets, but inside the palace, a new story was being written, one of love that defied time, of duty redefined, and of two souls who found their place not despite the universe's rules, but because they dared to rewrite them.